Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for checking out my channel. In this video, we're going to continue setting up our Nextcloud environment, and for this specific video, I'm going to focus on securing the Nextcloud instance. So we're going to be installing SSL. We're going to configure a jail to basically handle SSL for us. We're going to configure firewall on that jail, and then we're going to do some pen testing on it. So we're going to try to run our Nextcloud setup through some few security websites to basically scan it and see if we have any vulnerabilities. Another thing we're going to do here is I'm going to show you guys how to do port forwarding on a NETGEAR router. Now, if you have something else, then the procedures will be a little bit different, but I think the idea will be the same. Now, I had previously posted 2 videos on TrueNAS and Nextcloud, so if you haven't seen those, I'm going to add a card that will have a link to those videos as well. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section, and I'll be happy to respond to it. Now, the very first thing we want to do here is to enable port forwarding on our router. Now, I already have my router open right here, but if you have a NETGEAR router, whenever you log into it, it usually brings you into the basic tab. All you need to do is just change this to advanced. Move to advanced setup, and then click on port forwarding. Now, if you have a different brand of router, then I'm not sure how you're going to get to it, but what you want to do is to look for port forwarding inside your router's menu. So I'm going to click on that, and currently I have my TrueNAS on there, but what we're going to really need to do here is to add a service. So now, for my router, it already makes it very easy for me to do that. So I can just pick from one of these. So just for port 80, we're going to do HTTP right there. And then the IP address we're going to use is 11. And then we can click on add. And what this is going to do is going to create us this rule right here. So it will allow any traffic coming in from port 80. And then it will map it to port 80 internally, and then it will send it to this IP address, which will be our jail's IP address. Now, we need to do a similar thing for HTTPS. Now, I don't have HTTPS on here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new custom service. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to title it HTTPS. All right, so I'm going to title this HTTPS. And then we're going to do 443. And then we're going to do 11 right here. And then you can do apply. All right, so right now we have configured our router to forward whatever traffic we're getting, from port 80 and port 443 to our jail's IP address. This is our jail's IP address right here. And what I want you guys to understand is that this traffic will be coming from the internet. So before you do this, you really want to make sure you have a firewall in your environment, or at least you have your router configured in a proper way so that it kind of secures your environment. If not, you're going to have a lot of traffic coming in, and you might be susceptible to attacks. So be aware of that when you're doing port forwarding on your router, and make sure you don't make any mistakes. But again, we're going to be testing this router later on, after we've had our entire setup working, just to make sure that the router does not respond or display systems that are already running in our environment. So for example, any internal website or any internal servers that we have in there with a private IP address, we don't want the router to be announcing those to the network, because routers, they have this protocol called UPnP, which kind of advertises or allows devices to advertise themselves in a private network to ease connectivity between them. So we're going to just test it to make sure that our router does not respond to this, because sometimes hackers will try to scan open routers to see which ones will be able to respond to it, and then if it does, then they can know what's in your environment and they can send more sophisticated attacks. So that's what we're going to be testing after this. Stay tuned. All right, so now that we have our port forwarding configured, the next thing we want to do is we're going to go back into TrueNAS, and then we're going to go into jails. And right now we only have one jail, which is Nextcloud. So we're going to go ahead and create a new jail. I'm going to call this NC underscore proxy. Now I'm going to leave it as a clone jail, and then I'm going to choose 12.3 release. Now my environment has changed a little bit from my previous video because I had to upgrade my TrueNAS to use FreeBSD 12.3. Now if you don't know how to do that, just go into system, or go into if you don't know how to do that, just go into system, scroll down, and you're gonna see update right here, and then you can just click on it and see whatever updates are available, and you can click on it and then update your system. Now this is very important because you want to make sure that your TrueNAS environment is also running the latest version, latest software as well. I haven't really had any problems with this upgrade, so anyways, so this is what we have. I'm not going to be doing the advanced jail creation method, so we're just going to go ahead and do the wizard method. So again, here we want to go ahead and choose VNet. We're going to choose our interface as VNet 0, the IP address that we had created earlier on our router, right? We're going to be using that here, and then we're going to set our net mask to 24 gateway. All right, so I'm not going to be configuring IPv6 because I don't really use that. I know a lot of people don't use that as well, so you can go ahead and ignore this. So let's go ahead and we'll click on next. Right now, this is basis of our proxy jail, so we're going to go ahead and submit. Now, the reason we're creating a proxy or a jail, the reason why I'm not trying to install SSL on our Nextcloud instance itself is because should in case we get any kind of attack, we don't want whoever the attacker is to have access to our actual Nextcloud environment. And remember that jails are isolated from every other environment on your TrueNAS. So because of this, if we have a separate jail that is handling our SSL certificates, then when a hacker tries to hack our Nextcloud environment, what happens is they will only have access to whatever is inside this jail, because again, yes, we're going to be proxying through it, but they will mainly be interacting with whatever goes through this jail. So that brings up a level of security to our Nextcloud instance. So now that our jail is created, we're going to go ahead and power it on. Alright, so our jail is up and running. Alright, so now that we have our jail running, I'm going to go ahead and use a terminal. And I'm already logged into my TrueNAS systems. Alright, so now that we're inside our jail, now that we're inside the TrueNAS system, I'm going to go ahead and list our jails, our cage lists. Cage list. So these are the two jails that we have, and you can see the state, they're all up and running. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into our Nextcloud proxy jail. So we're gonna run JExec42, and we're gonna use the SSL shell. All right, so now that we're in here, first thing we want to do is to update our jail. So package update, and let's go ahead and take yes and let it run. Get signature. So after our jail is updated, the next thing we want to do is to basically go in and set up our firewall for the jail, because the main thing we want to do is we want to have a firewall enabled, so that way, you know, we only have 2 ports that are open and nothing else. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and now I don't think I have Vim in here. You can use whatever text editor you like. I prefer Vim. I'm gonna go ahead and install it. So package install Vim. I have that, yes. Alright, so now our package, our Vim has been installed. The next thing we want to do is we're going to clear this, and then we're going to Vim into etc rc.conf. Now in here, there's a bunch of, we have a bunch of services. And so what we need to do is under, so I'm going to click this, move down, enable firewall, and then next thing we want to do is we're going to say firewall underscore enable equals yes. Firewall underscore type equals workstation. Firewall underscore my services equals. Now here we're going to state the different ports that we want them to be open. So I'm going to go ahead and state them. So we're going to do 22/TCP and then 4. So we're going to do 80/TCP. We're also going to do 22 because we want to be able to SSH into the jail as well. So we're going to do 22/TCP as well, and then 443/TCP. We can block that off as well. All right, and then the final one would be firewall underscore allow services equals any. And then we can start it. So I'm going to save it. And now to bring up our firewall system, we're going to run no up. No up. Service IPFW start. /10 IPFW. Now the reason we're running this is because we want the firewall to output any logs to this file in our temp directory, and the no up is just for us to be able to prevent any hiccups when the service is coming up, because usually when you bring up the service, it usually brings up some kind of staring, so the system will kind of stale for a minute before it picks up because of the firewall. So this is basically just going to stop that. So we're going to go ahead and click that, and then we can check. So service IPFW status, and you can see the IPFW is enabled. Alright, so now that our firewall has been configured and everything else looks good, the next thing we want to do is to proceed and install packages that we're going to need for our proxy. So we're going to need to install Nginx, Python, certbot, OpenSSL, and then we can continue our configuration. So I'm going to go ahead and do. Alright, so we're going to install all these packages, so we can go ahead and click enter and say yes. Now the reason why I selected Pi38 certbot, if you want to look at packages to install on your TrueNAS system, if you go to freshports.org, that basically tells you, like, this serves as some kind of database for a lot of those packages. So if you search for certbot, search for it, you will see that here it tells us, the name of the package or how to install it. So I had already checked this out earlier, but again, this is what we have here. Now whatever applications you wanted to install as well, if you have any other extra applications that you want to install, you can just go ahead and search for it right here, and then you're definitely going to see information on how to install it. So we're going to go back. Alright, so our installation is complete. So we're going to go ahead and enable Nginx. That will be sysrc Nginx underscore enable equals to yes. And then now we can start our Nginx service. Nginx start. And we can check the status of it just to make sure that it is running, and we can see that it is currently running. Alright, so now that our Nginx is running, what we want to do is to just try it out. So I'm going to go ahead and run HTTP and then /10.0.0.11 just to make sure that our Nginx is running, and you can see that our Nginx is up and running. Alright, so the next thing we want to move forward and do is to configure. Alright, so the next thing we want to go ahead and do is to get certbot to install an SSL certificate on our jail and basically have that start up. Now, but before that, make sure that you have a domain name that you're going to be using, right? You can sign up for one of those free domain names from providers like CloudDNS or Cloudflare, or there's a bunch of websites or a bunch of companies out there that offer a free domain name. I personally, I have a domain from Namecheap, and so it is easier for me to just go in and then just configure it. So if you have a Namecheap domain, then this is what you want to do. Just go to domain list. This is my domain. Click on manage. Go to advanced DNS. And then you're going to see a bunch of rules. But what I did was to add an A record with a host of, and then I provided a host and then my my public IP address. Now, for you to find out what your public IP address is, what you're going to do is just open a link, a web page, search for what's my IP. When you search for what's my IP, click on this one right here, and it's basically going to pull up, you know, your public IP address, and then this is what you're going to use to add to your domain registers page. And all you need to do is just create an A record. Since you already have a main domain, all you need to do is just provide a subdomain. So it could be, let's say for example, your domain name is google.com, right? And this is Nextcloud, and you want it to be available at nextcloud.google.com. So all you need to do for your A record is just to provide Nextcloud and then this IP address, HTTPS, and then your public IP address, and then that will be able to route it. If you have any issues, please leave a comment in the comment section, and I will be happy to help you out. So I have already done this, so I'm not going to be doing this right now. But anyways, we have our drill running. We already installed our certbot. So what we need to do right now is to get a certificate from letsEncrypt. And so for us to get a certificate from letsEncrypt, what we need to do is run this command. So it's going to be certbot, cert only, -- standalone -d, and then our domain name. And then our domain name. So just go ahead and press enter. And now they're going to ask you for your email address, so go ahead and provide that. This is so that, you know, whenever your certificate is close to expiring, they're going to send you an email. Alright, so it says accept the terms of service, so we're going to go ahead and do yes. They're asking, do you want to share your IP address? I'm going to go ahead and say no, and then it's going to go ahead and get the cert. And you can see that it was successful. Oh, it says certbot failed to authenticate to the domain. Alright guys, so the problem that we were having before was because Nginx was still running, and so it was utilizing port 80. And so when we stopped, or when I stopped Nginx from running, the port 80 was actually available, and so certbot was able to get us our certificate. Now what I want us to really pay attention here is what we need to save or mark is the location of our certificates, right? So we have the main cert right here, and then we have the private key right here, which we need to provide these two files to Nginx. All right, so the next thing we want to do after getting our certbot or certificates is to go into our Nginx and then do the configuration. So for us to do that, we're going to go into Vim. Now you could do two things. In fact, let's just jump in. Let us jump into user local Nginx, user local etc Nginx, and then now that we're in here, you can ls, and what we're really interested in is nginx.conf. So I'm going to go ahead and do vim nginx.conf. All right, so presently our Nginx is only listening on port 80, but what we really need is for it to listen on port 80 and 443. So what we're going to do is scroll. If you scroll down, this is a sample of the configuration that you need for your Nginx to listen on 443. So what we're going to do is we're basically just going to copy all of this right here. I'm going to copy that and then move back up here. Insert. All right, so here Alright, so I'm not able to paste. It's crazy. Anyways, I think we're just gonna go ahead and type it. Okay. Let's jump to the end of the line. Okay, and then we can do a listen 443 SSL. Alright, so I'm gonna go back and do it. So nginx.conf, and what we need to do is, again, like I said, we need this configuration, this one, we need this right here. So we're gonna go ahead, jump into the end. We'll do a listen 443 SSL. And then we're gonna do a server certificates. And then here, as you can see, we want to specify the certificate link. So this link right here. So what I'm gonna do first is just copy or just write out the entries that we need, and then we're going to come back for that. So we're going to have server underscore certificate underscore key, and then the next one is SSL underscore session underscore cache, which is shared SSL. 1 minute. And then SSL underscore session underscore timeout 5 minutes. I want to do SSL underscore ciphers hi SSL underscore prefer underscore server underscore ciphers on. So just to make sure that we have everything as expected, we're just going to go down and compare it. Let's see. SSL prefer cipher server cipher. Alright, so I think we have what we need. Now, the only thing we need to add is our certs and the key. So I'm going to go out of here just so I can copy that. Alright, so we're going to cross check just to make sure that we have. I'm going to give it a little bit of space. Alright, it's really important that we check to make sure that we don't have any errors, so that we don't have to come back in here. Alright, so now that we have it, we have our certs added to our Nginx configs. We're going to go ahead and start our Nginx service again. So we're going to do a service Nginx start. See, so there's an error. Yeah, there's an error on our config, so we're gonna go back. Let's see, what was this supposed to be? Oh, it's supposed to be SSL certificate. I wrote server. Yep. Yep, that's why. SSL certificate. I was wondering why it was like that. Alright, so again, always check SSL certificates. There you go. Just check one more time. Everything looks good. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and save it again, and then we're gonna start our Nginx service. Let's see, performance and check on Nginx configuration. Syntax is okay, test is successful. Okay, so our Nginx service is up and running as expected. So now what we want to do is, real quick, we're just going to make sure that we can still access it, and you can see our Nginx homepage is still working. Now we're going to try to access it using HTTPS. Yes. There you go. So it looks like this, but what I want to do is now I want to go ahead and use the domain name that I had configured. And you can see that we're able to access our jail from a secure link. and you can see we have the lock right here, which tells us that our jail is secure and SSL is working properly as expected. So now we have successfully installed and configured certbot to get certificates from Nginx from letsEncrypt. Now the next thing we want to do is to make sure that we set up automatic renewal for our certbot certificate. Now if you paid attention properly when we installed certbot, you can see that on this line it says that in order to automatically renew the certificates, add this line to the etc periodic.conf, and what the line we're going to be adding is this: weekly certbot enable equals yes. Weekly certbot enable yes. I'm just going to add that to this so I don't forget it. But another thing is, if I'm going to show you guys another link. So in the documentation, if you look for this setting up automated renewal, right, you can see that it says that if you run this, it's going to go ahead and set up certbot to automatically renew itself. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a cron job that will run, and then we'll keep checking to see how to see when your cert is about to expire, and then it's just going to go ahead and renew that for you automatically. So you can run this. You can either choose to run this command, or you can do the one what we found in here, which is to go into etc periodic.conf. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into etc periodic.conf. I'm going to show you guys both methods. So first we're going to try this one, okay? etc periodic.conf. So let's just do a vim etc periodic.conf. And we can add that in here. Weekly certbot. And this should be able to do the trick for us, just to be on the safe side, right? I'm just gonna run this little command. I'm gonna add this in the description, the video description, so you can check it out and just copy the command from there. So I'm gonna copy this. And I'm gonna paste it. No, there's no sudo. So where's the sudo line? Take this out. So remember to take out the sudo line, okay? And then you just run that, and that is fine right now. So if we do let me clear the screen. If we do a contact-l, should have so normally this should be able to. Let's look at etc contact real quick. There you go. So you can see that we already have a rule in here, right? You can see that our rule autorenew certbot has been added to our Etsy contact. So I'm going to go ahead and just take out one line because we only did twice. So that is how you configure certbot to auto renew itself. And now for the final step, we need to attach that to our Nextcloud instance, which is running on this IP address right here. Okay, so next thing we want to do is we're going to go back. Where are we right now? I'd see Nginx. Yeah, so we can go back into nginx.conf. Now under location, we're going to comment this out, and then here we're going to do a proxy pass https. Alright, so that should do the trick for us. I'm going to do a service Nginx states. I'm not really sure if it was running. Okay, so we're going to restart Nginx since it was already running. Unexpected line in 961. All right, so I see the error. So all I needed to do was to close that line. I did not close that line, and yeah, that happens a lot. Anyways, so this is what we need to do. We add proxy pass. We'll put the link to our Nginx instance, and then you save it, and then we can go back and restart Nginx, and now Nginx is back and it's running properly. So we can go back here and just renew that, and there you go. So now we are able to access our Nginx instance from a secure location, right? It's very secure. You can log in as normal or as usual. There you have it, guys. It's taken a little bit of time to load, but slow but surely it is still there. But yeah, you can see our stuff is good. All right, so our Nextcloud environment has been configured. It's very secure, customized the way I wanted it to be. I'm going to be doing some extra work on it as well, but just to make sure that our stuff is fully secure, we're going to be running it through a few websites just to make sure that, you know, our setup is not messed up, it's not crazy. Alright, so no more accessing our NAS from the crazy link anymore. Our jail is looking good. We have our Nextcloud instance that is secure, right? We have the sign. We're able to access it using the domain that we specified. And now for our final step, we want to test to make sure that our Nextcloud environment is actually secure. So we're going to be running some pen testing, or we're going to be scanning through the website, the Nextcloud instance from a bunch of tools. So the first one we're going to be using is SSL labs.com/SSL test. And this will just check our environment to see how well it's doing. So I'm going to go on the command put the link of your Nextcloud instance and then click on submit. Now, and based on that score, it will tell us how well our environment is. Now, if we have some kind of vulnerabilities or some kind of issues, it will let us know as well, just to see from our certificate standpoint. Alright, so our rating is alright. So I think this is the reason why we got a B grade, because our server, I think, kind of allows SSL and TLS1.1. All right, so let's go back. So the only problem that we have is on our protocol support. You see, we don't have TLS1.3, but we do have TLS1.2 and TLS1.1 and 1.0. So I'm gonna have to take those out and change them. The next one we want to do is scan.nextcloud.com, and we're going to be doing the exact same thing. So we're going to put our link, and let it scan it. Alright guys, so you can see we got an A rating from the Nextcloud security check, which is really good. I'm not on the latest patch yet, but I'm going to be doing that later on. Alright, so the next one that we want to do is to do a pen test on it. So we're going to do that with pen test. The tools.com/. Let's just go there and see what we have. Now, the reason we're doing all these scans is because we really want to make sure that our environment, our Nextcloud instance, is secure. And if in case we do have some security issues, then we want to be able to identify those things and then make changes to it to make sure that it is actually secure. Because the reason we're doing this is because we want to be able to access our Nextcloud environment from outside, right? From outside your home. And because of this, you can never be too careful. So you really want to be able to take all the necessary steps that you need to identify the problems that your setup could have. All right, so our scan is complete, and the only problem we have is with jQuery. So I'm gonna upgrade my TrueNAS environment, and I'm gonna run the scan again. All right, so for the last one is for us to be able to test our router to make sure that it does not share or respond to UPnP scans from outside the internet. So for us to be able to do that, we're going to go to www.glc.com/shields-up. shows up. Then we can go and proceed. And you don't need to provide anything here, you just need to click on this link. And what it's going to do is it's going to identify your public IP address, and then it will scan it. It will run a bunch of UPnP tests to see if your router will respond to it. Now, if your router responds to it, then you really want to change that router because it's not really secure, especially if you have some really personal stuff running in your private network. So normally you should get a green check like this that says that the equipment at the target address did not respond to our UPnP probes. Now this is good. Alright, this shows that your router is secure and your router is actually, it's not advertising your internal services to the outside internet. Alright guys, so to take out, because as you can see, our Nextcloud instance is being rated with the B grade because we have SSL 1.0 and 1.1 being supported by, so our server actually responds to accepts these versions of SSL of TLS. So what we want to do now is to just disable this from our Nginx configuration, and then we're going to rerun this test to make sure that that problem has been solved. So what we're going to do now is going to open this. We're going to go back to our Nginx config, and then right in here, now we didn't really have this before. We did not have this option before. So we're going to be adding this one right here. We're going to be adding this one right here. So it's going to be SSL underscore protocols. Give it a little bit of space, and then it will be TLS version 1.2. So now that we've added that, now the reason we're doing this is because we want our Nginx to only respond to TLS 1.2. We don't want it to respond to 1.0 or 1.1. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And then we're going to do a service Nginx restart. Our Nginx looks good. Make sure that we can still access our Nextcloud instance. Perfect. And now we're going to go back and run our SSL test again. So I'm going to go back. And then let's rerun the test again. So right now, hopefully, we should not have any response from TLS 1.1 and 1.0, and so our system should be good. Well, guys, you can see right now our Our Nextcloud instance is super secure. We no longer have any response from TLS 1.0 and 1.1, so our system is secure. Looks good, right? There was no response for 1.1, no response for 1.0, so it looks good. Looks good. Now I'm gonna add 1.3 as well, but again, this looks perfect. Now I'm happy. I'm not really gonna worry about the jQuery problem, because again, that is with Nextcloud itself, like how it was built. I'm gonna be upgrading my Nextcloud to the latest version later on, but I'm not gonna do that right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the video right here. I hope you guys have fun. I hope you learned something. Do consider subscribing. I'm gonna have a lot of good content coming up in my next videos, so do subscribe, turn on your notification, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.